New to cruising, here's what you need to know.
Hey guys, it's Co.
And
And in today's edition of Cruise 101 Things You Need to Know, we are going to go over the questions you need to ask yourself to kind of get somewhat of an idea on if you will be prone to motion sickness. Now, there is no definitive way to know for sure if you'll be impacted by seasickness. There are, however, a few questions you can ask yourself to see if you are more or less vulnerable to it.
before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss a single thing from our Cruising 101 series.
All right, first up, ask yourself, have you had any previous inner ear conditions? Issues with your inner ear, such as ear infections, can increase your risk of seasickness.
Especially since the inner ear plays such a crucial role on maintaining your balance. If your inner ear is impacted in any way, it can throw your balance off completely.
So, do you have any close family members who have been motion sick in the past? A family history of motion sickness can be a very strong indicator.
If close family members experience seasickness, there is a higher chance the other family members or you might too.
What medicines are you currently taking? Are you taking any medications that may have side effects related to nausea or dizziness? This can truly enhance and create the feeling of being seasick.
Take a look at the medicine bottles that you have. Anything like antidepressants, anti-anxiety medicine, blood pressure medications, all these can have impacts on whether or not you feel dizzy or not. So take a look at the medication that you actually are taking on a daily basis and see what side effects they have. Next question is, how old are you? Seasickness can affect anyone, but is more common in children aged 2 to 12.
So make sure you are extra prepared for the little ones. Are you a man or a woman? Is the next question. Why? Because motion sickness tends to affect us women more than men, particularly during menstruation, pregnancy, or if we're taking hormonal type medications. So, man or woman?
Next question to ask yourself is this your first cruise? First time cruisers, people who've never been on a boat before, or people who have limited experience may be more likely to experience seasickness as their bodies are not yet accustomed to the motion of the ocean.
Now's the time to think back. Let's take a trip down memory lane. If you've ever experienced any type of motion sickness in the past, whether it was a boat, a car, airplane, or if you've experienced it while on a roller coaster, any type of dizziness or nausea in any type of moving vehicle, you want to consider. All right, regardless of your risk factors, there are ways that you can reduce the chances of your cruise being impacted by motion sickness.
Specifically by working with what is in your control. The number one thing that's in your control is how you prepare yourself and your kids.
All right, y'all, let's start with the light work.
And then we'll work our way up to the heavy duty stuff.
All right, the least invasive step you can take is seasickness bands. The bands work by applying pressure to specific points on your body to help alleviate nausea and vomiting associated with motion sickness. The whole principle behind this band is based on traditional Chinese medicine and the concept of acupressure.
Cabin placement matters. Now, everybody likes different parts of the ship, so this is not 100% standard. But if you're a first time cruiser and you're looking for the best place not to have any type of real motion on the ship, then midship is where you want to be.
The middle of the middle.
The middle of the ship is going to be the most, it's going to be the place where you're not going to feel as much movement of the ship.
So if a ship has 14 decks, try and book deck 7, the middle of the middle.
The length of your cruise matters. If you're only going to be on board for a few days, you don't need to take drastic steps like getting prescription medication to control your seasickness. But if you're going to be on the cruise 7 days or longer, then it's best to prep.
Now, on to the next step you can take to manage your seasickness. There are tons of popular meds on the market available to you. Ask friends and family what they take, look at what you've taken in the past, and pack it. Have it with you. All right. This step is not going to be for everyone. This is a strategy that is used by some and not used by others. It is pre gaming. Before you get on board, you start taking that non-drowsy Dramamine before you touch the ship. Usually a day, maybe two ahead of time. That way the meds are already in your system and kind of working their way through and doing its job before you even get into a situation where you are experiencing motion sickness. Typically after the motion sickness has started, girl, it's there. It's harder to get rid of once it's actually here. So preventative measures like pre-gaming can be really beneficial. All right, let's get to the heavy hitters. Calling your doctor to discuss a prescription med may be wise if you've actually answered yes to any of the questions that we ask in the beginning of the video. But before that, let me be clear and say this again. I am not a doctor. I'm just giving tips, speaking with a medical professional who knows your history as well as your current medications so that you don't accidentally mix things that you're not supposed to mix is necessary. I sell houses for a living. I do not give medical advice.
Now that we've established my wife is not a doctor, let's talk about one of the highest forms of protection. Get your doctor to prescribe you something like scopolamine. It's a medicine that helps prevent nausea and vomiting caused by motion sickness. It's available as a patch and it can be worn behind the ear. And it's something you want to put on before you get on the ship so it actually starts working before you actually hit any type of motion sickness issues. It helps block certain signals in the brain that cause nausea and vomiting and is effective only up to 72 hours.
The only drawback to this is it's not typically given to children who are under the age of 12, who are actually more prone to seasickness due to their underdeveloped inner ear balance mechanisms. So it's important to just kind of be prepared with seasickness remedies that are child friendly, like ginger, sea bands, and Dramamine for kids. And if you've answered yes to some of the questions when dealing with or when thinking about your kids, then you may want to consider speaking with a pediatrician if you think that your child is going to be at high risk for motion sickness. You can also consider asking your doctor for Zofran. If you feel like you are at high risk and seasickness is extremely likely and you just want to protect yourself, especially if you're going on a longer sailing, ask about Zofran. Zofran is typically what you would turn to when all else has failed and you're truly suffering with nausea and vomiting. It's a reactive med versus a proactive med. So, and that's not a medical term at all. That's just how I'm putting it. You take it typically after the onset of symptoms, not necessarily before the onset of symptoms. It's usually something that they use to treat symptoms, not prevent them. Again, not a doctor, so this is a good option to talk to your physician about. All right, now let's speed things up and run through a few other things that might impact your tummy during your sailing and what we can do to handle those things or avoid them.
Let's talk about rough seas and traveling through a storm.
Sailing through thunderstorms are likely and, or I'm not going to say likely, but they're very possible on any given sailing. I mean, it's weather and you can't control the weather. What you can do is be prepared. If you see in the forecast that there's going to be a storm, then go ahead and throw your sea bands on or go ahead and start popping your Dramamine and get it going in your system. Even if you've done fairly well, if you are prone to motion sickness, then you want to take some precautions just to make sure that when you actually get into a storm, you are okay because storms really can rock a ship back and forth. And I'm not impacted by motion sickness, but when we went through this particular storm, I kind of felt it. And even when you're in the middle of the ship, the sweet spot, you can still kind of feel it. Nowhere near as bad, but you can kind of feel those motions back and forth. I use a weather app so that I can kind of stay ahead of storms so I know what's coming and I know what to be prepared for. It will not work if you do not have the Wi-Fi package, but in the Carnival Hub app, they do show you what the weather is. So if you see that there's a storm coming up, go ahead and get ready. Start your Dramamine, put on your C bands, do whatever you can. What did we do during this massive storm? We went to the Dr. Seuss brunch or breakfast, I'm sorry, and we had a great time. So I don't want you to be scared of storms because they happen, but just be prepared for them. Bugs. Everybody has heard about cruise ships and stomach bugs. Yes, they are possible, but you don't have to be impacted by it if you just take simple steps to protect yourself. Clorox wipes, disinfectant wipes, hand wipes, those are all great for cleaning your environment around you because people are disgusting and gross. However, when we're talking about stomach bugs, you can't wipe those away. You can't wipe them away with like hand sanitizer or a hand wipe. You got to keep your hands washed. They have hand washing stations all over the ship. There are plenty of places to wash your hands. Use them. Even if you haven't touched anything, you walk past a hand washing station, wash your hands. Wash your hands if you've been out for a while. Just preemptively wash your hands. If you've been in and on, off and on the elevator, wash your hands. That is your number one protection against the stomach virus while you're on a cruise ship.
Another thing to be mindful of is excessive drinking. The more you drink, the more the chances are that you're going to feel dizzy or seasick.
Especially if you have the drink package. You do not have to have all 15 drinks. You don't have to test the theory. You don't have to test it to see how far you go. Once again, the more you drink, the more likely you are to experience seasickness or a hangover. The most dangerous thing to you on a cruise ship is alcohol intolerance, which, by the way, check out our video on staying safe while cruising coming soon. Now, this one you've probably already thought of yourself. The amount of food that is on a cruise ship is ridiculous. You are going to eat considerably more than you would at home on a regular day. And you're going to have to be prepared for the possibility of your stomach reacting to that. List never has this much in a day. And this was just literally one day, Royal Caribbean. She had ice cream, cheesecake. They bought her this soda mixed drink, something, which she never has soda at home. And she paid the consequences for it. And I mean, it took her out. So we were prepared, and I want you to be prepared. Pack those tummy meds, Gas X, Pepto, Tums, whatever it is that you normally take at home for an upset stomach. Check the expiration date on what you have at home. If it's expired, get yourself a new one and pack it. Okay, you've done it all, but the seasickness monster got you anyway. So here are a few steps that you can take. Okay, one, find some stability. Move to the center of the ship where there is a lot less motion. Staying on the lower decks can also help. So, sort of middle of the middle is probably, again, the sweet spot for even motion sickness once it has happened. Fresh air. Get outside and breathe some fresh air. Looking at the horizon can help your body adjust to the motion. You also want to stay hydrated, drinking lots of water so that you do not get dehydrated, which can actually worsen the symptoms. Chewing on some ginger candies, maybe, avoiding heavy, spicy, greasy foods. And of course, there's always your actual over the counter meds that you've packed with you. You can take those. Laying down flat on your back can also help reduce the feeling of motion. And consider just participating in activities, staying occupied, keeping yourself and your mind distracted. Especially on some of the bigger ships, when you are distracted, you barely remember that you're moving at all when you are focused on what you're doing. Playing games, socializing, things like that really can take your mind off of what's happening outside of the ship. This will not likely work if you're traveling through something like a storm, but it's worth a shot anyway. And then, of course, avoid triggers. Stay away from things that have like strong odors, alcohol. Those things can really trigger your symptoms if you smell them. So you're on a cruise ship, but try and avoid it as best you can. All right, so that about wraps it up for us. So remember, even if you're feeling topsy-turvy, you are equipped with all the tools you need to get back to happy sails in no time. Preparation is key. Bye.